Well, good evening, Central Georgia. The models are still in good agreement that we'll potentially have snow and wintry mix tomorrow. So right now we are pretty confident that we'll see winter precipitation, so meaning light snow and wintry mix throughout tomorrow morning. However, once we get into the afternoon, it's going to be completely clear and will be too warm for anything to really stick. So everything that falls is going to melt tomorrow afternoon, making the travel impacts, especially throughout tomorrow, at a minimum. So let's get into the details of our weather impact alert. Here is the graphic that shows that. Once again, our weather impact alert is for the potential for wintry mix and light snow tomorrow morning. So here are more details about that. So once again, light snow and wintry mix is possible. The best chance overall for any accumulation, that will be for places south of I-16. So for places within a winter storm warning that starts at 1 in the morning, actually it starts at 3 in the morning and is until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'll show you that graphic coming up. But once again, we're not going to have this anything that falls stick and truly cause hazardous road conditions throughout the afternoon and evening because it's going to be above freezing by the afternoon. So everything should melt by then. Here's a look at the 4 sky cameras across Central Georgia. We're having scattered showers as of right now, and that's all due to the front. Now, the current temperature in Macon, 52 degrees. Winds are coming from the northwest at 10 miles per hour. So all throughout today, people are talking about how it's too warm. Obviously, we had temperatures in the lower 60s, so they're like, David, how can it snow? We're in the 60s right now. How can the temperature drop so significantly over the next couple of hours? And how can we get to around or below freezing by the time that we're forecasting snow? Well, we are getting close to the arrival of a cold front. So that's my answer right there. So here's a good graphic that displays that. So you can see right here we're seeing temperatures in the 50s, but if we head out towards the west in Alabama, they're already within the 40s. Jackson already seeing lower 40s, especially in Mississippi. Nashville, 32 degrees. They're already around freezing. So all that cold air is eventually going to move into our area. And that's the reason why we're experiencing the scattered showers at this current moment. So here's a closer look at the Peach State, and you can see that temperature divide. Lower 50s in Macon and Columbus, but a little bit more towards the west. Montgomery in the upper 40s. Birmingham, lower 40s. Already seeing upper 30s in Huntsville. So all that cold air will eventually move into our area, and temperatures should cool down even more as we get into the early morning hours. So this is the reason why we're saying that the cold air is going to be in place for snow to develop. Now, the biggest uncertainty with this forecast is, are we going to be below freezing or around freezing when snow starts? Or are we going to be a couple of degrees above freezing? And how can snow form in that time? Well, snow can actually form 1 or 3 degrees above freezing, and that's because the cold surface, the cold air above the surface is obviously below freezing. So all that snow forms in the sky, and once it drops, it doesn't have enough time to really melt once it hits the ground, even if it's above freezing. So the snow is going to come out slushy and not as perfect as if temperatures were in the upper 20s. So enough of me yapping on that. Here's the look. The cold front is just towards our west in Alabama. And seeing temperatures right now, seeing 50s and once again upper 50s in Rochelle. So once again, still warm now, but we're starting to see upper 40s in Thomaston and in Butler. So a 10-degree difference if we compare Thomaston to Rochelle. That's the cold front on our doorstep. So here's a look at the satellite and radar. And here's the local view, and you can see scattered rain all throughout our area. So the majority of south central Georgia experiencing some rain, exception with the southeastern counties. We're seeing rain, Wilkinson County, Baldwin County, Macon seeing some rain, Warner Robins seeing some rain. So a good chunk of our area is experiencing rain. Now, zooming out, this has to do with that front causing that lift and that moisture to cause the rain. As Ben would say, you need that moisture in that air for the water content to truly fall down and hit the surface. So all that moisture is in place. So once we get that cold air and moisture together, all this rain is going to transition into snow. And we're actually seeing wintry mix at the current moment and some flurries for North Georgia. This wasn't even expected in the forecast. And so we're seeing north of Gainesville in the North Georgia mountains, seeing some wintry mix at the current moment. So for tonight, once again, scattered rain is going to continue. But once we get into the mid-morning, by 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, all of that rain is going to transition into snow and wintry mix once temperatures get cold enough. So once temperatures are around freezing, that's when all that precipitation is going to turn into snow and wintry mix. And the low that we're forecasting is 30 degrees. So here's a look at all the models. And once again, it shows that scattered rain continuing over the next couple of hours. And then once we get to 4, 5 o'clock, the temperatures are going to be in place. And you can see the rain starting to form a swath of wintry mix and snow for our most western counties, such as Taylor County, right around 4 o'clock. And then you can see that swath expand. And then right around 7, a good chunk of central Georgia are experiencing snowfall at that time, or will be experiencing snowfall. And that swath will progressively move towards the east. So by 9 o'clock, getting into our most eastern counties, 10 o'clock, the swath will start to get smaller because the temperatures will then begin to warm up. By noon, that's when the snow and the system itself will eventually leave our area completely, and we're going to be clear and mostly sunny throughout tomorrow afternoon. So this is the reason why I'm saying that anything that falls is going to eventually melt quickly in the afternoon, because we have, once again, that added sunshine that will melt things completely around that time. So that's our future view graph model. That's the main short range forecast that we use, the short range model. Here's the other short range model that we use, the high resolution model. And it shows you, once again, scattered rain throughout the rest of the night and the early morning. Right around 5, a swath of snow and wintry mix will develop and progressively head towards the east, providing the snowfall throughout the mid to late morning. Eventually get into our eastern counties by 11. And once 11 hits, temperatures will get warm enough for the stuff to dissipate, and then we should be mostly clear by the afternoon. So the high resolution model and the short range model, or the graph model, are both saying a similar story, really. So that's the model agreement that we've been talking about. Here's the NAM model, and it shows mostly rain, and then that swath of snow developing for our western counties at 6 in the morning, progressively moving off towards the east, and then leaving our area by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, there is a scenario in which snow will form, but the window in which the snow will fall will be short. And here is what I mean. So this is the Euro model. It's a pretty good model in forecasting snow, and it has rain continuing throughout the late night and early morning. And then there's that swath of snow forming. It forms a little later at 7 o'clock, and then it moves a little bit towards the east. By 11, it completely disappears. And then we're left with a wintry mix for an hour or two. This is a very possible scenario. And if this scenario is correct, then our most eastern counties would not see any snow at all. They would probably see just a wintry mix. So this is another scenario that could potentially happen. Once again, it would cause some low snowfall accumulation totals in general. But the one thing that we've seen in all the models that we'll see some form of snow for 1 to 3 hours, and some models are calling for most of the morning. So because of the certainty of snow, the National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning for most of the counties south of I-16. So I'm going to name them off right here. So we have Peach County, we have Bibb County, Wilkinson County, Twiggs County, Bleckley County, Lawrence County, Dodge County, Wilcox County, Pulaski County, Chris County, Dooley County, Macon County. And Sumter County is also included within that winter storm warning, but they are not in our viewing area. And then everyone else, so everyone shaded in that light purple. So Taylor County, Crawford County, Upson County, Monroe County, Jones County, Jasper, Putnam County, Baldwin, Hancock, Washington, Johnson, Trutland, Montgomery and Wheeler, and Telfair County, they are within a winter weather advisory. So areas within that winter weather advisory, you will most likely not see as high snowfall totals as compared to areas within the winter storm warning. However, an inch is possible, but it's also possible that you could just see a trace amount or dusting, so a couple flurries. But the National Weather Service is more certain that we'll see at least some accumulation for the area shaded in pink. So this also came from the National Weather Service. This was the snowfall amounts forecast. They released this around 4 o'clock, and they actually predicted 2 to 3 inches for the areas shaded in blue, so including Macon and Warner Robins. I personally, I thought that was a little too aggressive, so I'd put it to 1 to 3 inches because of the scenario in which the Euro showed, where we may only have 2 to 3 hours of snowfall, and then of course it transitions into a wintry mix. So that's the reason why I was a little bit more conservative. I just kept that 1 to 3 inches of snow. And then areas shaded in that lighter blue, so in Dublin, Johnson County, Washington County, Taylor County, Chris County, Wilcox County, parts of Jones and Monroe, they could potentially see 1 to 2 inches. Also possible that they could see a little less, but the National Weather Service is more certain that they will see something stick for at least the morning, and then it will melt by the afternoon. And then the areas shaded in the turquoise blue, those are the areas that have more uncertainty on whether they'll even see snow. So they're forecasting trace amounts, so some light dusting, to an inch of snow. And I want to point out the attention to the southeastern counties, the counties such as Telfair, Wheeler, and Montgomery County, even Trutland County. Those are the counties at risk of not seeing anything at all, maybe just a wintry mix. Once again, highlighting that scenario by the Euro model where it just gets too warm, so all that snowfall will quickly transition into a wintry mix before that swath arrives for the southeastern counties. So that's why there's greater uncertainty that they would see snow. So here's a look at the temperatures. Now, I started off the show talking about, yes, it was warm now, but we are predicting that it's going to get colder throughout the overnight. So the cold front's going to eventually give us 40s. And then eventually, once we get into 6 to 7 o'clock, that's when we'll get into the mid-30s. And you can see mid-30s in Macon and in west central Georgia. That would be enough for snow to fall. And then by 9 to 10 o'clock, you see temperatures in the mid-30s now for east central Georgia, and that would be cold enough for snow to fall. But then you get into midday, and then that's when temperatures will start to rise, and the system overall will eventually head more towards the east. And then we'll get into the 40s, and with 40s and sunny conditions combined together, then there is no chance that anything should stick throughout the afternoon. Another thing we need is moisture. Now, over the past couple of days, we were uncertain that if we would have moisture in the first place. And there was 3 scenarios that could have happened. There was scenario 1, where it went far to the south, and we couldn't have any moisture for snow to form. That's not going to happen. We had scenario 3, where it would set up a classic Georgia snow event, where most of the snow will be confined for North Georgia, near the Atlanta metro and the Georgia mountains. And that looks unlikely too. Looks like all the models are coming to agreement that scenario 2 is the most likely scenario, and that's the scenario in which central Georgia would see most of the wintry precipitation. So I showed you the snowfall totals, and you may have seen 3 inches. I don't think we'll hit 3 inches. In my personal opinion, I think 1 to 2 at most. Maybe 3 in isolated areas, but widespread, I'd say most places will see around an inch. I'd say places more towards the north would see a little bit less. Same thing for places farther to the east, so like Johnson and Washington County. Places with the highest chances of seeing greater snowfall accumulation totals will be down towards the south, such as, say, Houston County, Dooley County, Pulaski County, and Peach County. However, no matter what happens, this will not be like last year. Last year was a truly historic storm. We had 9 inches in Crisp County, around 7 inches in Dodge County and Wilcox County, and around 6 inches in Houston County, south of Perry. So we're not expecting anything like that. Yes, it will be historic because snow is extremely rare, but nothing compared to that or the storm of 1973. The ground will also be wet from rain. Rain is falling right now, so the ground is going to be wet. So anything that falls, of course, will not accumulate much. The wetness of the surface is also going to limit the overall accumulation. So that's something we have to consider. And then, of course, temperatures are going to be above freezing by the afternoon. So anything that falls is not really going to stick for long. The roads are going to be hazardous in the morning, but in the afternoon, things should get a lot better. So that's why we have that weather impact alert only for Sunday morning, because of the expected melting by the afternoon when the sunshine will be great and temperatures will be above freezing. So once again, drive with caution on Sunday morning. Drive slowly and don't do any aggressive maneuvers, because it's not worth it, because it will be slick, especially during or just right after snow falls. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. So we have an 80% chance of rain and wintry mix and snow. Once again, the rain is expected to occur over the next couple of hours. Once we get into the mid-morning, the rain will then transition into wintry mix and snow, but then we should be completely clear by Sunday afternoon. By Monday, we'll be nice and clear, same thing on Tuesday, and temperatures are going to be cold. We'll have temperatures in the mid-20s Monday morning, lower 20s on Tuesday morning, same thing on Wednesday, getting progressively warmer in the afternoon on Wednesday, and then we'll get into the 60s next weekend. We do have some rain chances throughout that time. So now that is the recap on what we're seeing right now, where we stand with our snow chances. Now it's time to answer any questions. So black ice Sunday night, Monday morning. There's a low chance of black ice. It's not going to be like last year. If you remember last year, most of the snow fell in the afternoon and evening, and then once the snow stopped, then temperatures went back to the 20s, and everything that fell refroze, and we had a driving situation throughout that morning the next day. So I don't think it's going to be like that. I think most of everything is going to melt by the afternoon. Now, is Wilcox County getting snow? Yes, I'd say you're going to receive some snow. In terms of the overall accumulations, you are under a winter storm warning, so I'd say 1 to 2 inches potentially. Some places could get 3. I don't buy it. The National Weather Service believes so, but I'd say 1 to 2 inches, around 1 inch is my bet for Wilcox County. Now, will it stick for Lawrence County? Not in the afternoon. Maybe for the rest of the morning, yes. You may see a blanket of white in the morning, but in the afternoon, everything is going to melt. McRae, Georgia. So in Telfair County, yes, snow is definitely possible, but they are one of the most uncertain counties because they're farther down towards the east. So once that swath of snow moves into your area, well, it may be warm enough for snow to even form. So the snow may transition into a wintry mix once that swath gets into Telfair County. But I will still say snow is definitely very possible for Telfair County, but it's not as certain as compared to Warner Robins or Macon. And I'm going to go back to the future view, because of course, most of the questions are going to be about timing, and of course about certain locations. So going into the future view, the timing for the most western counties should start by 4 to potentially 5 o'clock. And that's where it's indicating that places such as Forsyth would get snow. So around that window, so 4 to 5 o'clock, that's where the snow should start, getting into Macon by 5 to 6 o'clock. And then that swath will progressively head more towards the east. Is it beginning now in Macon? No, it is way too warm for it to snow here in Macon as of right now. But colder air is on the way. And then Dublin, right around 9 to 10 o'clock. That's where you'll start to see snow and wintry mix. Is this in the morning? This is all in the morning. So it should all stop once we get into 11 and noon. And then we're going to be crystal clear in the afternoon. So it's going to be quite sunny in the afternoon. So this model is saying that Sandersville is going to receive snow 7 to 8 o'clock. And then the future view graph model is one of the models that has a larger window in terms of overall time of snow. So it has many places receiving snow for 3 to 4 hours. So in the case of Sandersville, I mentioned 7 o'clock it could start, and this model has a snow stopping in Sandersville at noon. Lots of church services going to be canceled, and I feel truly guilty. I'd rather cancel school than church, to be honest. I feel a little guilty. Oh, yeah. I actually had to talk with a pastor today, and I felt really bad. Eddie Morrell, I mean, I'll recommend a little bit of a nap. You're not going to see anything in the early morning, but if, say, by the mid to late morning, then I'd say you could potentially see snow. But I want you to get your sleep. Is it too hot in Wilcox County to snow? Right now it is, but we're forecasting temperatures to be around freezing, so the mid to lower 30s. And that will potentially allow it to snow. So yes, I don't think it'll be too hot. I think you'll see some snow in Wilcox County. Same thing in Gray. Drip outside faucet, no, we're not going to be in a hard freeze. So it's not going to be like Friday morning where we were in the upper teens. But if you want to drip your faucet to be safe, go right ahead. So Warner Robins should start to see snow. Here, I'm going to push this back. There you go, 7 o'clock. And then Toombs and Montgomery County. So Toombs and Montgomery County, there is a chance that you'll see snow. However, there's also a scenario that Toombs and Montgomery County will experience just a wintry mix because we're expecting this swath to occur later in the morning or in the afternoon where it will just be too warm for snow to form. So Toombs and Montgomery County, more uncertainty there as compared to Macon and Warner Robins. So what's in store for Warner Robins? So Warner Robins, they're expected snow around the mid-morning that could continue until 10 or 11 o'clock. Jacob Brown, would you forecast road conditions too dangerous for traveling for church service in Lord County? Depends on where your church is. I'd say if your church is a couple blocks away, I'd say you could potentially do it. I don't think it would be too dangerous as long as you are safe and you drive very slowly. Thoughts on the roads in the morning of Warner Robins to Macon 5:30 to 6:30? Well, if this model is right, that's where we'll receive, I got to restart that phrase. That's where that swath will affect Macon and Warner Robins around that time. So I'd say it may be a little bit more hazardous to drive to Macon around that time period. Monroe County, I'd say Monroe County could see snow. I don't think the snow totals are going to be as high as the places farther south, but definitely snow totals are I'd say trace amounts of some flurries to an inch is definitely possible for Monroe County. So that is where we currently stand with our snow chances. So as you can see, the models are in agreement that we'll see some form of snow and also temperatures. They're going to eventually drop throughout the overnight. So eventually it's going to get cold enough where snow will be able to form. So now it's a whole waiting game on waiting to see if the rain will fully transition into snow or wintry mix. Ansley Parker and Ben Jones, they're going to have more coverage tomorrow morning as the forecasted snow is expected to fall. And I'll have one more look at the forecast at 11:20. The newscast for 11 got pushed back a little bit because of the NFL playoffs, but we'll be on at around 11:20 with more news and weather and, of course, more updates on our snow chances. So have a beautiful night, Central Georgia.